part of me is really dreading making this video. And I'm following the call, as scary as that is to do. What I have to express today needs to be the focus versus the whole concept. Because there's no way to fully encapsulate the weight of what I'm saying with words that can only be pointers. Where to begin? Time, concept of time, and where we are right now in that illusory concept. We are at a point in history where nothing and everything matters at the same time, in the same space. We are at a pivotal point where a new age is inevitable. Where the pieces have already started falling apart. And the vision I had for this is a clay vase in a room full of vases. And it's just the moments before the divine bowl comes in and shatters every vase. And it's from there that we can do what is called for and pick up the pieces of history on these vases, these between hieroglyphics and these images, just the records of history. You can pick up the pieces and collage it together into something that works. Everything needs to fall apart in order to come together. And this isn't something that's going to be completed in this lifetime, this generation. And I admit that I don't know why it is that I am speaking on this now, when I know that this is not something that can be attained in this reincarnation of mine, of ours. But it's not my job to know. My gift is simply to connect with the different timelines and speak when called to. This call began when I woke up this morning Got up at 2:22 a.m. I was reflecting on many things simultaneously. A segment of that being the concept of law, order, patriarchy, the entwinement of those things, those concepts, those illusions. And I was looking into earliest recorded civilizations, history. And the thing is, history is labeled as overall what is recorded. And the entwinement of recorded history and patriarchy runs deep and heavy. And prehistory, as it's labeled, the time before we had access to written history, though not necessarily synonymous with there being no written history. To be more direct, destroyed record history. Had been destroyed in an attempt to preserve patriarchy and the illusion of that. And all the things that come with it, false powers, erasure of magic, attempt at erasure of magic, honoring of goddesses and women overall and their life-giving power. And at first, when I looked into these things, I felt a deep sense of dread in acknowledging what remained of written history being solely patriarchal, running deep in materialism, ownership, slavery. Classism. I'm amazed at how deep that runs. But as I was sinking into this dread, that's when I connected with the concept of prehistory, the unwritten history that we label it as today. To know there was a time before patriarchy, a time before slavery, a time before ego, shadow, a time of being and magic, the core of all that truly is. And in connecting with that truth, I am reassured again truth always will out. And though patriarchy feels like a comfort familiar, like a long-standing thing, and in one perspective, it has been long-standing, but on very fragile bones, and not the longest standing in the full perspective of all history, of all life. And so it is inevitable that patriarchy will fall. And all that comes with it. And I find it painfully funny that even in what we may presume to be so long ago, the men of that timeline, that doesn't feel right to say because we're still on the same timeline, the men during that labeled year, so long ago, they felt the need to back their fragile legacies, their ownerships and titles and all of that, by writing it down and destroying any other written works. But the thing is, anything of truth and of value cannot be lost and cannot die. And so again, it is inevitable that what was brought together based off of fear and insecurity, of ego, will fall. And that what is aligned with the core essence of life will blossom again. And though it pains me in my human experience now to acknowledge that I will not physically in this form live to see the day that flower blooms, my highest self, future timeline self, will know. So, all of this to say, in the most simplest way, history, written history that is accessed, was just a bunch of mansplaining in an attempt to silence women and those of lower classes and such, to maintain an illusion of power where there never was any. And I want to be clear that I do not have a problem with men, with the concept of laws and orders. It is the way in which we have chosen to continue to engage with it in such a binary way, in a place of human-centered focus, in a place of male-centered focus that never was fitting, understandable in some very primitive way of when we got into the age of agriculture uh, the age where human development, not human evolution, but human development, they need to be playing around with what works and what doesn't. And for a time, it in some ways served for humans to lean on the, for the time, more physical bodied, strong men for certain tasks. But that got taken way out of hand and for too long, and became the sole reliance and still is an underlying deep current that's just causing self-destruction. I'm getting lost in the I'm getting pulled away in the emotion of it as opposed to the message of it. Okay. Point is, we have not completely failed. Everything has played out the way it is needed to, though there will be some adjustments in prior timelines. I won't delve into that too much. For those of you who are connected and know, you know. Just know that change for the better is inevitable. And that faith is the ultimate driver here. And I'm talking faith in truth, in God essence, in what matters most, unconditional love, and being. I'm going to leave that here.